It's already 2022, and things are so much different than they used to be in the Airbnb industry. I almost don't even recognize my own business anymore. This is going to be the 5th year, this video, the top 10 things you need to know to run your Airbnb business in 2022. It's the 5th year I've done a video like this. And this is the first year I think I'm going to push you in a completely new direction as opposed to the 4 years prior. I've done so much to change how our business operates the last year because of COVID and because of the economy changing, because of consumer habits changing, that these 10 tips are going to be fresh. And I hope they help you. I hope that this year you crush it, you rise above your competition, because competition is one of the key words this year for 2022. This is not as easy as it used to be. Now, what's so great about you watching this video and other videos on this channel is you are going to get as close to the cutting edge of this industry as I can place you myself. Now, I'm not the only educator in the space, and I don't think you should only listen to my advice, but I'm going to try my damnedest to put you in front of every competitor that you will ever find in your way here in the Airbnb space. These 10 tips, tried, true, some theoretical because they're brand new, but they will change your life as an Airbnb operator. So guys, welcome to 2022, let's jump in. My first tip for you, 2022, is to brush up on all of Airbnb's newest features. And there's a ton of them that are wildly important. Airbnb's added air cover this year, which is a completely different type of coverage that covers you against liability, introduces a statutory payment for non-smoking fees, things like that. They've also allowed you to open up claims after you've reviewed somebody by giving you 14 days to do a resolution. And they allow you to bill for lost income only if an Airbnb reservation is canceled due to another person's problem prior to their reservation. There's things like that, but it doesn't stop there. Airbnb has new features like these short stay cleaning fees, where if your cleaning fee is for a 2-day stay or shorter, you can make that cleaning fee less, things like that. They've added pet fees into the system. They've added slash-through pricing by running promotions. They've done a ton. So brush up on all of Airbnb's newest features. I will make sure to do a future video just for you on that. Tip number 2 is for choosing an Airbnb property, choosing the city, the neighborhood, and the type of property that will make the most money. You need to know the difference between market research and competitor analysis. And let me give you the skinny. When I teach my students to do market research, I just did a consulting call with someone today to brush them up on the 3 types of gaps we're looking for in a market. You're trying to find market-wide or even neighborhood-wide. Like your market could be a 4-block radius in Manhattan, for example. When you're looking at a market which is lots of supply, more than one competitor, you're going to be looking for gaps in the market. Places where you think that there's either not enough suppliers or the suppliers are junk, where you can compete. Now, what you do is you develop a thesis, is what I tell my students to do, which is I think I can make money in these neighborhoods with this listing size because I think I've learned enough about the market, consumer types, places that they like to travel trends, stuff like that. Once you've done your market research, you develop a thesis on how you think you're going to be profitable. Then you do what we call competitor analysis. Competitor analysis is where you look at individual listings and you do a deep dive. I mean, you look at everything. You look at their description, who they're selling to and how they're selling. You look at their photos, quality of photos, not just what's in there, but how good was the photographer, stuff like that. You're trying to assess how strong your competition is in the market, whether or not your best competition is profitable, whether or not you can beat that competition, stuff like that. And by doing competitor analysis, listing by listing research, you're going to find out so much information that will inform you on what type of listing you should start in a neighborhood, if at all. There could be a time where you find out that all of the competitors are making hand over fist money and none of them are good at Airbnb. That is exactly where you want to be. Now, if you know how to do market research and then competitor analysis and do this 1-2 punch kind of research, you'll save a lot of time and then get down to the facts that matter. And this will help you grow your Airbnb business by choosing less bad properties. And I can tell you from my experience, Airbnb was so easy at one point that I would just point at a building I liked based on the look, put up some Airbnbs and instantly profitable. I don't want to give you that reckless advice anymore because in a lot of cities, we do have some elegant competition. Not just me. I'm actually not even really the top of the market when it comes to like listing quality and budget. I don't spend a lot of money on my listings. I just go for like cash on cash return. But in the same building that I'm giving you this video in, below my penthouse, is the Guild. They have 2 floors of this building, 40 units right next to American Airlines Center, and they crush it. They probably spent a lot of money on their units. They actually raised VC capital last year. They raised $25 million in the middle of COVID. Other companies didn't survive. We'll talk about that. But companies like the Guild are everywhere. And where you have professional, well-funded competition, you need to be smarter about your entries and you need to make sure that you're different enough that you can get the business. So market research, competitor analysis, find your gap, punch a hole in the gap, and make your money. Number 3 is so important for your ranking on Airbnb. And I realized that this is a lot harder than I thought it was because I've hired a few people in my organization, told them to do this process, and none of them have ever done a 100% job ever on this part, which is how to fully complete an Airbnb listing, down to the last little T's and the I's that get dotted. This is so important because even the little things can affect your ranking. Once you've published a listing, you're only halfway there. Airbnb has moved a ton of stuff to the back end because they wanted to make the front end easier for people to create a listing and get online. Airbnb wants more hosts, so they made the front end like just a few clicks and you're up. But it hides a lot of the specific details that you need to put in your listing now. So on the back end, you need to go in and make sure that every single text box is filled out. Things about your place, about the neighborhood, getting around, other things to note. You need to make sure that your checkout times and check-in times are right, that your cancellation policy is strict, and that you've got a cleaning fee and a weekend fee. And if you have a couple listings, you can have what's called Pro Tools, and you need to activate Pro Tools. Just have a couple of listings, and the hack here is to go to airbnb.com/multi-calendar, and it will force load all of the Pro Tools features, including a multi-calendar. But then when you go into your listing, now that you have Pro Tools, you can go into pricing and set a 3-day discount and a 4-day discount. And trust me, so many hosts don't change their prices at all, let alone think elegantly about a 3-day discount in order to get ahead in the market. These are the types of things that you need to know better than your competitors to compete. Understanding all the tools available, having a completed listing, so that way Airbnb says, you know what, this is going to be one of the best listings to show, and they give your listing a real shot at the beginning. Airbnb gives you an SEO boost for the first month that your listing is created, but if you incorrectly create the listing and have things like vertical photos and don't have text boxes filled out and don't check box all the amenities that you have, you just won't get shown as much, and thus that boost that you get the first month kind of gets wasted, and you fall into the middle of the market and you'll get less bookings. That 1 month boost that you get, you want to use it as much as possible to increase your ranking, so that way from then on out, Airbnb thinks that your listing is interesting. Now remember, Airbnb calls their algorithm for placement an interest algorithm. Make your place interesting and abuse that boost the first month. Number 4, we are going multi-platform this year. All of you need to do it. Now there are a couple softwares that you will need to make sure that going multi-platform works out for you. Thankfully enough, you can use something cheap like HostHub and connect VRBO and Airbnb in the beginning. You should also get on Furnished Finder. Places like Copa, small listing sites, they will get you bookings here and there. Now, the most optimal amount of booking channels or online travel agencies to use, according to Wheelhouse and Price Labs, their data shows that between 4 and 6 channels of distribution is pretty optimal. And the majors are the ones you should sign up for. And even though Booking.com is a major, I'm not a big fan of Booking.com. They're really hard to work with. So use VRBO first, start to learn the ropes of multi-channel, add in Furnished Finder and stuff because they give you monthly bookings. That's pretty easy to adopt. And then once you're brave, you can add Booking.com. And something like HostHub syncs up your calendars, where it's like the only thing that it does, so you don't have to learn how to use a channel manager and do a bunch of complex stuff and pay too much money for software that you don't really need yet. We have over 100 properties and we still don't use a full channel manager. We have a pricing automation software, we'll be talking about that soon, and then we have HostHub to connect our calendars, and that's it. Our staff, they'll log into VRBO, they'll log into Airbnb, they'll log into where they need to, and they'll manage the inboxes and stuff like that. Eventually, we will have a channel manager for unified inbox and stuff as the technology gets better, but trust me, you do not need a platform management software to go multi-channel, but you do need to go multi-channel. Number 5 is something that we constantly talk about on this channel, but you need to really internalize this. Dynamic pricing makes such a big difference. I'm gonna tell you a story. I stopped changing my prices for a solid week. I gave pricing and revenue management to someone else in the company and told them, hey, you can do this. They also didn't do it that week. And I stopped doing it because I wanted to see if they would pick it up. And if they didn't pick it up, I was curious to how much money we would lose. Well, we lost $20-something thousand in bookings over 1 week because we did not actively change our prices day by day. Dynamic pricing can cost you $100,000 a month, which could be half of your revenue. That's about half of our revenue on Airbnb. And that was pretty dangerous. So I will tell you, this is a big deal. Now, dynamic pricing is upping your prices where there are events where you have high demand, lowering your prices when you don't have enough time to get a booking, understanding that bigger groups pay more money, and if you have a big house, you have to lower your rates to get smaller groups sometimes, stuff like that. Not only do you need to understand dynamic pricing is important, but you really need to study dynamic pricing and know how to use the tools that are available. There are things on Airbnb's multi-calendar like rule sets, and I teach my students some really wild tricks to get guests that stay like specifically 4 or 5 or 6 days that are staying for sets of days that their competition isn't really gunning for, because people's weekend prices and weekday prices are so disjunct that unless it's a 7-day stay or longer, my students have a very clear advantage on the weekends. And for slow season, this has made them a ton of money. So you need to study dynamic pricing. I have a pricing strategy course on this YouTube channel. Watch all those videos. Really get a firm understanding about what it means to drop your prices and understand concepts like contribution margin. That video is in the pricing strategy playlist, don't worry. So watch stuff like that. Be actively changing your prices. Don't be too proud to drop your price, because a lot of picking up profit at the end of the month is getting those last 5 or 6 days booked. And a lot of people will tell you don't do it, but then the people who've done it will go back and say, you know what, I can't believe I never did. I am so mad at myself for just leaving all these days unbooked. That was profit in my pocket, money I could have spent on infrastructure, new furniture, new technology to keep parties away, stuff like that. It will mean the world to you. It'll mean the world to you if you do dynamic pricing. Number 6, you might need to hire a specific person in your company for this if you're big like us, but you need to make time for 3 things: reviews, resolutions, and arbitration. I'm sure most of you are on top of your resolutions game. If a guest breaks something or steals something, you file a resolution claim and ask them for the money. But if Airbnb doesn't pay you, it ends there, doesn't it? Well, there's something called arbitration, and because Airbnb is a publicly traded company now, you need to go farther to get your money. Airbnb has this no first policy in order to protect their shareholders, but now you need to let them know that you mean business, and if you know you're owed money, you need to take it all the way through arbitration to get paid. I will be trying my best to make this as much sense as possible in future videos without giving you legal advice, because this kind of gets sticky. We're getting into contract law, and I love to stick my fingers deep into topics, but there might be a barrier here where I can't, on a public video like this, tell you something. We'll find out, but I'm gonna do my best for you. Review management is going to be especially important when you have guests that are harder and harder to please, and you have to stay strict on your policies, and guests decide that they're gonna use the review platform area to try to punish you or hold things over your head. It can get tough. It's going to be important for you to also review Airbnb's review policy thoroughly so you understand the language in that review policy. So you can go to Airbnb with a bullet point list of all the reasons why a certain review should get taken down and get that thing taken down. One of my students came to me in one of our Cracking Superhost weekly coaching sessions, and they had a review that they couldn't get taken down even though the guest did all sorts of crazy stuff in the review. And after about 20 minutes of live coaching, telling them exactly what they need to do, their plan of attack to get this review removed, they succeeded. And they posted inside our Cracking Superhost Facebook group, hey, hurrah, we did this. Awesome. And of course, we all had our little celebration. But these things have a huge trickle effect on your SEO, whether or not people book your places, and how much money you make at the end of the year. Not knowing how to remove reviews is going to cost you a ton of money, so get on top of it. Number 7 is a business adage that I've said a few times in this channel, here or there, which is continue to inspect what you expect. But I need you to start to develop a culture inside of your Airbnb business around that philosophy. If you want something done right, you don't have to do it yourself, but you need to constantly watch the person that you put in charge of it. Now, I've been hiring a ton of people lately. I've hired a recruiter to bring on housekeepers. I've hired a customer experience manager to make sure that guests are getting exactly what they need. We've hired a housekeeping lead or housekeeping supervisor. Positions like this to make sure that everything that we hire our VAs to do, our housekeepers to do, our maintenance people to do, and all of our teams, all of them have supervisors that their whole goal is to maintain a level of standard required to keep our company running. Because if you let your housekeepers just clean all the time and just trust them, even if they send you photos and stuff like that, they will find ways to cut corners. So you need someone who's constantly spot checking, working shoulder to shoulder with them, giving them appreciation and praise, bonuses sometimes, stuff like that too. But inspect the work that needs to get done for quality. And that way it will always be as you expect. Number 8 is not a platform you normally hear of, but in most major cities now, and it's on the rise, consider Peerspace. My penthouse here, I've been testing Peerspace, and I'm getting bookings for, a few hours here, a few hours there, and they go between like $500 or $1,000 a day. I have party requests for birthdays where they're gonna spend $2,000 a day in my place. That's really awesome. We have some lofts in downtown Dallas where we don't want a last minute booking for like $60 plus the cleaning fee. So we can use PeerSpace at $50 an hour and we'll have people book for $175 or $450 for a whole day. And they'll do that last minute sometimes. And these are on weekdays where instead of us having a super cheap guest who might do some shady stuff, because you know how Airbnb can be with cheap listings or cheap reservations, instead of that, somebody has access for just a few hours. So consider PeerSpace as an alternative to revenue when you don't want to drop your prices anymore. If you have a big, beautiful home or brave interior design that kind of has a look, or big, open, like natural light, big, huge windows, or maybe a open floor plan where people can get lighting equipment and backdrops in and they can do photo shoots there, you'll find that PeerSpace is a good second alternative for revenue. And this way you don't need to lean so much on accommodations to make your money with your square footage. PeerSpace is not an accommodation, so even where Airbnb is restricted, PeerSpace is not. Tip number 9, you might consider this a wake-up call, guys, but you need to take your investments more seriously. You can't just throw cash at something that you didn't research, customers you didn't research, furniture that you don't know is gonna work, and expect it to work out. You need to defend your investments. Sometimes you need to spend a little more money to make a place work nowadays. And because you have to spend more money on design to make a place work, you need to take that cash more seriously. If somebody breaks something, charge them for it. If you're gonna buy furniture, buy stuff that doesn't break so easy, right? Buy stuff that doesn't look worn down so fast. Buy stuff that's easy to clean and track your income. Watch the money coming in, watch the money going out, track your P&L. Track your profit margins. Make sure that you know that what you're putting your money into is giving you the profit that you need. Again, 5 years ago, I could have just told you throw spaghetti on Airbnb and it would make you 100% of your profit. Like it would happen. Nowadays, not so much the case. So if you track your numbers, if you know where your investments are making the most money, what types of properties, what types of design, what types of furniture doesn't break fast so you don't have to constantly replace it and have downtime. If you take every investment seriously and track your investments, your business will grow. Whatever you can measure, you can improve. And where you put your money is one of the most important things to measure. So stop being so loose. Stop being so careless and reckless. Don't be like me, all right? Or don't be like me 4 years ago, all right? Track your investments and let's make some money. And tip number 10, I want you to add one word into every decision that you make as a business owner: competition. Competition. It's gonna be the first time that I will ever advise, and now forever moving forward, that I advise you to consider your competition in almost every single decision that you make. If you're going to start a new listing, look at your competition. If you're going to adjust your rates, look at your competition. Going shopping for some furniture, look at your competition. Thinking about how to clean your places, look at your competition. There's so much good competition out there that they can be your North Star for improvements. There's also so much good competition out there that one mistake not considering your competition could put you behind the pack. And if you're losing money compared to your competitors on Airbnb, it will affect Airbnb's interest algorithm. They will think you're less interesting than your competition, and it becomes a downward cycle. Now, there are times to strategically do something stupid because your competitors aren't going to do as good of a job with the stupid move you made. There's something called a loss leader, for example, and we did this in Philadelphia during like the peak of COVID. We lost money on our properties, but we got bookings. We were willing to take a lower price faster than our competition, and we got booked up faster at lower prices where our other competition didn't get any bookings at all. So we got some revenue, they got none. And that was a decision that I made thinking very clearly about my competition and who I wanted standing at the end. If one of your competitors is doing like all boho theme or all like steampunk theme or all Victorian or farmhouse, like rustic farmhouse in their properties, and none of them are performing better than market, then do something else. But if you've got 3 competitors, one's doing rustic farmhouse, one's doing boho, one's doing Victorian, and the boho person is just like making all of the money, notice that and follow that leader and do boho designs, because that's where the money is. Your competition will teach you so much. Your competition will also give you bumpers to make sure that you don't do something stupid, because you'll know what the low price competitors are, what the high price competitors are in a market, and you can find a way to fit in there somewhere. Your competition has a pricing strategy. They have their own booking website. They're multi-platform. They hire professional photographers. They're probably paying somebody for interior design, but they have biases. They have a way that they like to run their business that is bleeding through since before COVID, and they're not all making the changes that they need to make, so they're going to make mistakes. Look for where your competition is making some mistakes, guys, and that'll change per market, that will change per competitor. If you can do everything right by looking at your competition and what they're doing right without any like bias yourself, but then also look at what they're doing wrong, because you haven't been egotistically attached to that property or that market. You can do everything right, including what they do wrong. And that's going to be a big part of how you make money in 2022. Trust me, I've lost money and I've made money. I've been on both sides of the fence. And I've had to deal introspectively with decisions that I've made based on ideals, things that I wanted my company to be before COVID punched me in the face. And so a lot of what we've done has been to survive, has been to optimize, has been to adapt, so that way we could be the company that's still standing at the end. And I want the very same for you. I want you to be able to be 90+% occupied at the rates that you want, with housekeepers that love to clean your places, with guests that love to give you 5-star reviews, and a job, a career, a business that you and the people that work for you love, so it will continue to grow without crazy surprises. Next step, join my Facebook group, The Hosts of Airbnb Automated. It's a free Facebook group. It's private, but you can join and talk to other hosts. This is where you can learn more about your competition. I hope that this video will guide you through 2022 and make you a ton more money. If it does, please let me know. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'll find you down there. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the other side.